Hey, everybody. My name is Carissa Reiniger. I am here with Faye Simpson of Lucid Body House. And Faye is this incredible woman who has actually had a phenomenal career far beyond just Lucid Body House. She has trained celebrity actors. She's a professor at NYU. She's just this woman who has done so much amazing work. And she is here to talk to us about her take on SLAP mindset. As I talk about all the time, being a successful entrepreneur is a little bit about how good you are at business, but I think it's a lot more about how good you are at managing your mindset, staying really strong and connected to your body, being kind of present and aware. So Faye, could you just tell us a bit about yourself in your own words and maybe just offer an initial nugget of, if you could offer one advice about how to sort of stay in the right mindset, what do you think that is?
So mind and body seem to be the same to me. So when you say mindset, I immediately think also the health of the body. So the most important thing for me and the business is staying in tune with my mental health and my physical health, so that if I'm taking on too much, I start making bad choices. I start getting overwhelmed quickly. That's my personality is a sort of yes person. Yes, I'll do that. Oh yeah, let's do that. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I've got all these balls in the air and I can't sleep at night and I'm nervous and I'm not eating. So to me, as the more I get into a good, solid groove with the business, it feels like I keep, and this is, the SLAP has helped me with this a lot. What are the priorities every day? What am I starting with? What are my goals every day? So that if I can hit those, I'm happy. I'm not, my mind, my creative mind, my Gemini mind isn't spinning off. And a lot of that also is about body health, resting and eating well and, moving.
Yes. What do you mean? So your company name is Lucid Body House. Your work is all about the lucid body. What is a lucid body? What does that mean?
I'm so glad you asked that question. Because I could talk for a long time about it, but I'll try to keep it short. So I was a dancer. And in dancing, we have to figure out a lot about alignment and about the biology of the body in order to make it work so intricately. And then I moved into acting. And in acting, I was shocked that so many people knew so little about their body. Right? And so then I started using the dance body knowledge into the acting world. And I started recognizing that a lucid body means that the process that one goes through as a human being is visible. So, for example, if I was feeling grief for something, but as normal people do, we hide it, right? I might hide it with a big smile.
That's right.
Because I don't want to talk about my grief.
Yeah, right? Or I want people to think I'm confident and I'm okay, and all the posturing that we want to do, right?
Yes, especially running a business.
That's right, exactly.
A lucid body means that sadness is part of me. I'm aware of it. I'm bringing it to the table. I'm not sobbing and breaking apart, but it is part of, so for actors, and I think for anyone, the idea that you're not blocking what is actually your given circumstance. That's an acting word, but the given circumstances. What are your circumstances today? So when you're in a place of action, if that grief, if that character suddenly starts to cry, you've seen it the whole time because there's a visibility. So there's an awareness and an allowance of what the body is experiencing on, I call it a sort of layering.
I love that. It's interesting. I've done a lot of sort of personal development therapy, and one of the things that was a massive hurdle for me to overcome was what you described, right? This idea that I have to present that I'm fine, right? If people are going to buy from me, if people are going to trust me, if people are going to listen to me, if I'm going to, be an expert on how to grow a business, well, God forbid I'm confused or I'm scared or I don't know what to do, right? And I think we live in a culture where everyone's trying to be an expert, everyone's trying to be a guru, everyone's trying to have their social media profile. And I think that it's reducing our vulnerability. That's the risk of it, right? We're all trying to tell a story as opposed to just being ourselves. How does a business owner live in a lucid body? How does a business owner find that sort of vulnerability or that actually complexity, the fullness of themselves, and not feel like they have to hide it, but let it out a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I really, I just feel like I'm breaking through and getting to a really strong place here in my own life personally with that question, because I think I used to feel like I had to hold on with my team. I have a lot of teachers all over the world teaching this work, and I have to sort of hold on, make sure that everyone's doing it the way I want it to be done. And there's a certain dominant control aspect. And recently I realized, well, in the lucid body work, we're expecting our students to be vulnerable and open up and be truthful, have their bodies be truthful. So I have to walk the talk. I have to, and the more I do that, the more I'm respected. So if I am dealing with a team member and I can just say, I'm a little disappointed, or I feel like you've left me out here a little bit. And instead of just maybe in normal, my old response would have been, okay, look, things aren't going well and we need to get this sharpened up.
Right.
Right? Because I've always been very direct. Everyone used to tell me that I had a biting, direct response when things weren't going right because of my passion, right? And I figured, oh, well, I'm so passionate about the work. When it goes wrong, I'll be like, what are you doing? Now I realized I am alienating and isolating people. My teachers, my team. Now I feel like I'm trying to be actually more truthful about what I'm experiencing. And say,
sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah, just say if I've experienced some personal loss or some personal boon or something, that I also bring that into the conversation. I'm a little giddy today because I just found out my daughter got into grad school, or my daughter did this. So forgive this, right? Or I just found out some bad news. So I'm a little under, but I'm listening and I'm with you. Please don't take it personally.
I love that. I really relate to what you said. One of my problems and opportunities is that I am so passionate. I'm also very impatient and I have high expectations and I'm really ambitious. And you put all that into the right circumstances and I can make things happen. You put those into the wrong circumstances and I can be really annoying and direct and cold and and harsh. And it's not because I'm ever actually mad at people, but it is probably because I feel an urgency and I got to get things done. And but that's my stuff. That's me, right? That's my limitation. That's me not saying, guys, I'm really scared we're not going to get this done on time, or I'm really worried that we're going to fall flat in our face and not help the people who said we were going to help. Like, we've got to figure this out. I'm feeling really activated right now, right? And so I relate to that a lot, and I think a lot of business leaders struggle with how you find that vulnerability without losing your authority, right? Without losing sort of your direction as the leader. But I think we have a long way to go to recognize that the vulnerability is actually what gives you kind of authority as a leader, right? It gives you the trust and the respect of your people. And it is that fullness, that lucid body, that letting all of it be true for yourself versus presenting this very, very kind of narrow version of yourself.
Because I think if you are presenting narrow, people think you're hiding something.
Right. You lose trust.
You lose trust. And you lose why are you telling us to be this way? But even on an unconscious level, people might maybe not know that. But I'd say 5 years ago, people say, I can't believe you. You're always so together. You're always, I don't know how you manage it. And I found myself irritated with that. And I realized, I am not exposing how I can be overwhelmed and how sometimes I feel like I need more support. And actually I'm feeling a little unsupported here. And so in a vulnerable way, And that has been a game changer.
Yeah.
And it's just really about surrendering
Yeah.
to what is actually happening on, trusting the fact that I know that my interests are for my business and for my team and for my teachers. I know my heart is in the right place, so I can trust that.
Yeah.
As opposed to thinking, oh, I need to hide and put up a front because I might say something wrong. What am I
Right.
going to say wrong?
Right. Right. Because it's coming from the right place.
It's coming from the right place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. I had one of my therapists say to me once, he was like, have you ever considered that you don't get a lot of support because you're not good at asking for help? And I was like, oh,
Oh,
well, that's an obvious thought, but it hadn't occurred to me, right? That in my naive idea, that
yeah.
part of exuding, confidence was that I had to know everything.
Yeah.
Well, no one knew what I needed. There was no room for someone to support me in an authentic way because I was not open to it. And so, I've just been so amazed by how many people are around the world who actually want to help me and support me. But I had to actually do a lot of work to break myself open enough. And I still have to do that work all the time, right? But to be open enough that I could be aware that I needed support, honest about what kind of support I needed, and then in a position to actually accept it. And I think if business owners globally could open themselves up to that, right? To knowing that that's not a sign of weakness, that's a sign of strength. And all of a sudden the possibilities that open up for you when you're open for support, I mean, the sky's the limit all of a sudden.
I mean, I think it's going to take our society a while to start raising children who are raised with this idea that crying is fine, crying is released, and anger is fine as long as you recognize it before it does damage, and that we honor our emotional body's responses, because in the body has what I call the second brain.
Yes.
And they have actually neurons in the intestine. And those neurons are picking up signals, sending up to the brain so that we can be more on a survival level in tune with danger. So if we can get back in touch with that, then that sense of the body knowledge, if you're across from a client or across from somebody, you can feel when they're scared. You can feel when they're lying. There's a sense, again, of trusting the body's responses as a leader that I think is really important.
Talk to me more about that. I think that for most business people, this idea of trusting your body to think better, make good decisions, right? Know what to do strategically is so foreign. But I love every time I hear you talk about sort of your work with actors, whenever you talk about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that applies 100% to me, not an actor, a business person. What have you learned teaching actors about how to be effective, how to connect with an audience, how to be in their body that you think applies really directly to a business person?
Well, acting training is about learning about human behavior. Uh-huh. And so it is fascinating, the psychophysical research that one has to do in order to be an actor. So training an actor, my eye, and also directing plays, my eye is just getting better and better about when is the character lying? And if they're lying, you're not playing a bad character, you're covering something that's important to you. And when is a character, we call it active space between two people, and it's the second chakra. I work with the chakra centers, that sense of physical intuition. So if a character wants something from somebody, you would come in and in a way mirror them, blend with them, so that you get into the same physical rhythm in order to create that active space. This is great for business owners.
Totally.
To understand that they can't keep themselves in this bubble and think that what comes out of their mouth is going to be effective. The actual body's ability to come into the person's active space, or even if you're speaking to a room, come into the room with your physical intuition. People pick it up. I mean,
Mhm.
I guess it could be considered sexy a little bit,
Uh-huh.
because that means that you are looking at the people with you,
Right.
that you are taking them in.
Yes.
And
And
that's
isn't
what,
that inherently recognizing that it's actually about your audience, whether your audience is your employee across the table from you, or your audience is a room of people that you're speaking to, or your audience is a theater of, people who bought a ticket to see you in a play, right? But that it's actually not about you, right? Which takes you out of sort of being anxious and in your body and worried about, or sorry, in your head and worried about what people are thinking. And when it's about your audience, well, then you can't actually be in your head about it because it's not about you. There's nothing to think about. There's only something to experience.
acting is about listening.
Uh-huh.
And people think acting is making these big actions, right? Well, actions come from responding.
Uh-huh.
And so much of the acting training is about listen to what you're getting.
Yeah.
Listen to what you're getting,
Hmm.
have that lucid body available to then respond. Trust the fact that your body will respond. So it's the same thing for the business owner. Listen to your audience.
Mm-hmm.
If you're talking and your audience is not with you, you should be able to feel that.
Totally.
That's when an
Totally.
actor is controlling the stage. They can feel who's listening, what is not landing.
Totally.
If it's not landing, you can feel it.
Yeah.
And it starts with the one-on-one. When you're speaking and you can feel someone starting to do this, your words are intimidating them.
Yeah.
So you can then alter your tone, alter what we call tactic,
Mm-hmm.
so that then they reopen and re-engage with you. And that is your intuition controlling that.
Yeah. It's so powerful. It's almost freeing too, to think, oh, none of this is actually about me. It's only about my
Yeah.
ability to show up and be aware of the other person. That's actually what I need to be good at. I don't need to be good at everything. I need to be good
Yeah.
at listening. I need to be good at experiencing somebody else. There's a lot of pressure that actually gets relieved, right? Like, oh, I
Yeah.
don't have to know everything. I don't have to have an answer to everything, right? Like if people could know that in its truest sense, I feel like people would find freedom in that.
And also, like, I mean, just to give you credit, you are a great listener, because you wouldn't be sitting here with me if you hadn't listened and been excited about what I am doing. So, I mean, that's your forte in a way.
Thank you.
All these small businesses, you're going, listening to them, and being excited about how you can help them. So you are a lucid body, Carissa.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, but I think again, I'll take that compliment. I'll appreciate, because I'm bad at taking compliments. So I will say thank you. And I will say, when you're doing the work that you're meant to do, I think you do get more curious, right? Because it really, when you're doing work in service of others, it can't really be about you, right? Like I started Silver Lining because I actually really want to help small business owners. I want people to make money doing what they love. I want people to have the impact in the world that they dream of having. And if I can play the tiniest role in that, like what an honor. Like I've been so clear that this business is built in service of others. It's not about me. And so I do think some of this, and I would be curious for your thoughts on this. For me, my experience is the more I'm in alignment between my mind, my body, my mission, my business, my calling, my spirituality, whatever you want to call it, when I'm in alignment, I'm my best self. When
Yeah.
those things start to get out of alignment, I'm not a good listener anymore. And I am more stressed and I'm not actually doing my best work. And my business is not as successful as it should be. And so how do you agree with that, first of all? And then how do you, if you could sit me or some other business owner down and say, okay, let's work on that lucid body of yours. Let's break in there. Let's get it moving. What do you do? How do you build this skill or this practice?
Yeah. I mean, I think, like you said, when we are aligned, body, mindset, and spirit, whatever spirit means for anyone, just
Yeah.
means that you're connected to the world.
Yeah.
Things fly, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like there's no effort.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
I
And it's
love that.
fun and it's free.
Like you're in the stream.
Yeah.
And it all feels like you are in the stream, because what you're doing is having, like you just said. So I feel like there's a few things that are essential. One is some kind of meditation practice.
Mm-hmm.
Meditation practice, and sometimes the word meditation, people blog and go, oh, it's reflection. It's time when and it's not sleeping time.
Mm-hmm.
It's time, with me, I do it in the morning after my coffee. And then I sit on the cushion and you turn your antenna into the inner body, and you're basically saying, how you doing?
I love that.
Oh, there's sadness there. Oh, I am feeling like I failed. It could be small. It doesn't, the ego would be like, you haven't failed, you're doing great. Da, da, da. But it's like, no, my body is having that experience and I'm going to listen to it.
Uh-huh.
And then in that reflection, it could be just feet on the ground, sitting in a chair, but you are turning your attention completely in and taking 20 minutes. You can put a timer, right? And breathe and just allow your body to tell you how it's feeling.
I love that.
And then the second thing is movement. The body, the mind, if it's really mentally, it's firing, but it starts to lose the signals here because the spine needs to stay fluid. Yoga, running, stretching, dancing. I mean, anytime someone is at a desk, like I will pretty soon, like I will have to start to be talking to you like this. And I'll start being like, okay, so where were we at? Because sitting too long immediately makes something starts to bottle up. So there has to be a sense of some kind of fluid movement, and it can be a 5-minute dance break every 2 hours, something, so that people do that, because I think it makes a huge difference with the mental health.
Yes.
Because
totally.
the body, blood flow, nervous system needs that sense of, it's like inclusion. You're including your body. And
I love how you framed checking in with your body. How are you feeling? Right? Like, I love that meditation isn't like some woo-woo spiritual thing, but it's actually just taking enough time to literally say, okay, I think to myself a lot, I'm really hard on my body. I think of my body as, a little human. And I think, oh my gosh, I've been hard on her lately, right? I'm working too hard. I'm not sleeping enough. I'm going like crazy. Okay. And I love this idea that meditation is actually creating a space long enough to say, hey, how are you doing in there, right? What are you feeling that I haven't had time or I haven't been paying attention to? And I'm going to pause my crazy and actually come back to what's really happening, And I think it's interesting. I've always been a believer in this idea of mind over body. But what you're saying is making me actually think that that's unhealthy. My mind probably overrides my body a lot, but in a way that's not helpful, because that means I'm not listening to it. What's your thought about that mind over body? How would you phrase that?
I mean, I think that comes from, I'm a practicing Buddhist, right? And Buddhist talks a lot, Buddhish maybe, but it talks a lot about cravings and getting control over those cravings. So in mind over body, in that aspect, if I'm craving cookies and sugar, and I know what can I do to start to get a hold of that craving, right? But I think it's an old-fashioned word, a term, because I think if we really check in with the body, it can get to a place where if I sit with that craving long enough, I'm going to start connecting to my grief. I'm going to start connecting below. I'm going to start connecting to my insecurity. And if I can emotionally feel that, if I can allow myself to cry and to feel that, trusting that it's not going to spiral me down to a place I can't get out of. Now, a lot of people have places that are quite traumatized. And those places need therapy. They need somatic work. So I'm not saying that, just sit with yourself and all will be fine.
Of course.
But at a relatively mental health and body consciousness, it feels like the body and mind need to be a team.
Yeah, I like that a lot more.
Yeah.
It's almost not mind over body, it's just mind and body connected, right? Being in sync together.
Yeah, because I think that the body can actually, there's wisdom there. If you hear, it's an intuition that you can hear, and you know, things like, I'm done for today. I
Right.
can't do anything more. My body's saying that. My mind wants to keep doing that project. Wait, I can just finish that tonight. You know, my body's like, actually, you are exhausted.
Right. It's really powerful. I would guess that 96% of business owners are not connected to their body, right? You know, we are programmed to work hard, to do this, to keep going, to hustle. I mean, all the sort of messaging that comes at the entrepreneur in an average day, right? Very little of it is pause,
Yeah.
stop,
Take a breath. Yeah.
listen, how are you, right? You know, it'll be there tomorrow. If your body isn't doing well, just wait a minute, right? Come back to it, come back fresh. And so I really believe that if business owners operated like this, and again, I'm very much on my journey. I'm much more like this than I was 10 years ago, thank God. I was probably the worst offender of all these things 10 years ago on the planet. But my results showed I made a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of dumb decisions because I wasn't listening. I was moving with, you know, kind of blind determination, and I wasn't listening. And I think, again, I still have a lot of work to go on this journey, but I can see how my life is different. I can see how my relationships are different. I can see my business is better because I'm trying. At least I'm aware enough to know that I want to, and I try as much as possible. And I think, yeah, I think it would change the world. I think if business owners could take this on, take your point of view on, take your work on, changes things massively. I really believe that.
I think that also for me, it feels like it's prevented me from moving in directions which are actually not happening. You know, when you're sort of steamrolling and saying, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. I want to get into that theater, or I want to get into that school, and it's too hard.
Yeah.
So not hard work is different than I don't know what the word is, but I feel like if things, to me, I can just say, this is not streamlining. This is not in alignment. It's too hard. I'm going to back away. Maybe I'm disappointed, but I'm not going to put my energy, and you've taught me this too, stop putting your energy into places that aren't immediately feeling like they're in alignment.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm really proud of how hard I work, but I think where I have gotten better but have more work to do is not getting so determined to do something that even when it's obviously not the right decision, right? Like, I'm not good at quitting. I'm not good at saying, that's not a good idea, right? That idea that I had is actually not right. I'm going to pause. I'm going to divert. I'm going to take in new information and recalibrate. And so I love where you went with that, right? Hard work is different than staying in hardness, right? Or however, whatever the right way to say that is. Hard work's required, right? This is, it's a hard journey to be an entrepreneur, but it doesn't have to be hard all the
time. Right.
Yeah, it's really good. Okay, last question for you. So you've talked about meditation, right? You've talked about moving your body. If you could, from your own experience, training actors, talking and training business owners, if you could sort of give one challenge to business owners out there, just really focus around this idea of mindset, mind-body connection we've now talked about. What would you challenge a business owner to do to sort of shift their mindset, to think differently in a way that would ultimately help their life and their business? What would you challenge them to do?
Maybe it's like giving my actors this challenge as well. So maybe it could also work for business owners. Have a notebook with you at all times. And when you feel you've done an action you've done an effort or an action or had a conversation that feels in alignment, body, mind, spirit, write it down. When you have done an action where you feel like something was off, just write down something off with that conversation. So you start reflecting on what I'm really experiencing. So it's about just giving yourself a little bit more time to reflect on the actual expressions you're making.
Oh, I love that.
Okay? So then you can look back on Monday and say, on Monday, I had that conversation with that client. It was so smooth. And I realized I was listening to them. They were sad. And my compassion was involved in that conversation. And it still went, I still received what I needed, but I was more compassionate. That conversation didn't go well because I was rushed, because I felt actually they irritated me.
Uh-huh.
Because this is something that we have to deal with. It's like, what do you do when someone triggers, their personality triggers you? You have to be aware of it and adjust.
Yeah, totally. Totally. And maybe also recognizing, and this is something I'm trying to get better at, also recognizing that's just not someone that I want to be in a relationship with, right? When I reflect on that conversation, we're not aligned, right? They don't align with my values. This is not going to work. And being okay with that, right? Thinking, oh, you know what? I'm not going to do that again too. But I love this idea of being conscious, right? So aware that you actually take the time to reflect on what your feelings were. Because I do think being in touch with your feelings in your body is a skill you can develop, right? Like I think it's not necessarily you just are or you're not. I've gotten better at it based on lots of practice and lots of training, and I imagine I will continue to get better at it as I practice and train even more.
It's called kinesthetic awareness. And it's the cerebellum, and it has to do with not just movement, but what the body's actually experiencing.
Oh, this is so good. I want to talk about this for 7 hours. It's so interesting. Thank you. Okay, tell us how business owners can find you. What's your website? We'll put it across the bottom, but how can businesses find you?
Good. It's www.lucidbody.com.
Perfect.
There's a podcast, Lucid Body House.
Awesome.
Instagram, The Lucid Body.
Perfect.
Facebook, Lucid Body House.
There's a theme here. Yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
Awesome. And you wrote a book, and I will say I read it. Faye gifted it to me. Thank you. And it's written for actors, and that was sort of the original intent of it. But I found it incredibly useful as a human first, and then certainly as a business owner. So we'll also put a link to your book as well.
The second edition is coming out.
Great. That's awesome.
So that's exciting in June. So
awesome. All right, Faye, thank you so much for your wisdom. Thank you for everything you do. I think this is going to help a lot of people. So thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks.